think that's the real issue. We don't know what he's going to do to move an agenda that impacts and helps the disenfranchised in this country, the marginalized in this country. And whether people are paid or not, I don't have any proof of that. And it's interesting to see an administration that is, frankly, hell-bent on talking about fake news, that they would also be the pushers of that type of news. It's very interesting that they just can't take it for what it is, and that is strategic disagreement and resistance to an agenda that does not include all Americans.
Patricia, to you, what we're hearing is that some of these representatives, Republican representatives, especially in these swing districts, are making the political calculation that it's better for them maybe to not show up, maybe to have these town halls and not actually be in the room, and then be vulnerable to that YouTube moment of all of those years and what we just aired. Politically speaking, let's step aside from what is right to the American people and answering your constituents. Politically speaking, from a political calculus, what's the best answer for those people that are more vulnerable in those swing districts?
Yeah, not smart not to listen, and not smart to even not pretend to listen to your constituents. And it's not a theoretical question. If you go back to what happened in 2009 with the Tea Party protesters, which I believe was a very organic movement, those protesters were very real, but Democratic leaders, including Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid, literally called it astroturf, just like Sean Spicer is calling this astroturf. It's an attempt to delegitimize and ignore what's happening in their own districts. But Democrats lost 63 House seats in 2010, 5 Senate seats. It's just, whether they're paid or not, I don't believe they are. I talk to a lot of people who say, could you just tell my congressman I'm not getting paid? Democrats lost big, and I think that the way they handled those town halls was a big piece of that.
But Doug, you make the argument, because just Doug, to this, you make the argument in your CNN opinion piece on it this week that Republicans are not, bound to holding these.
No, I don't think it's an either-or proposition. Look, if you want to go to a huge forum like Joni Ernst did or Chuck Grassley did, Tim Scott did, I agree with Tim Scott on this. It's not an either-or proposition. You can go to those events that really reward the loudest and angriest voices, or you can do something different. If you want to learn about Obamacare, visit a community health center or a hospital. Talk to doctors and talk to patients. If you want to learn more about education in our country, visit a school. This requires members to be more vigilant in how they represent and how they interact with their constituents, but they don't just have to go to free-for-all forums. They can be smarter and more strategic about that, which the National Republican Congressional Committee and also the House Republican Conference are working with members to make sure that they do, to make sure that these members avoid being seen as being AWOL.
I want to get your guys' take on something else. John Podesta used to run Hillary Clinton's campaign. Her former campaign chairman did an interview on stage at a summit, and he was asked about FBI Director James Comey and his role at all in the election. Here's how he put it.
You have a theory of the case that,
that
Comey,
look, I think there's
that
only
Comey
two.
wanted Trump to win, that the FBI wanted Trump to win. There's got to be some theories here.
I think there's two. I think there's sort of two possibilities. There are at least forces within the FBI that wanted her to lose. I'm not sure they were prepared to, they really understood the alternative, but they wanted her to lose. I think that's one possibility. I think the other is just become a cover-your-ass organization. And there was pressure coming up from the underneath him, and he succumbed to that pressure.
Angela Rye, let me get your response as Democrat on this panel. What do you think? Is this just sore loser stuff?
I don't agree with the sore loser idea, and I don't want to call John Podesta, who was the chairman of her campaign, a sore loser. I think that he's calling into question things that, again, Americans all over this country have continued to call into question. Do I have any evidence of that? No. But I think that it's fair for him to raise whatever theories he'd like. I certainly have some theories. I've talked about them on air. I have gut feelings. I've talked about them on air, and I definitely support the members of the House and the Senate who are calling for an investigation not only into this election, but ties that Trump has with his business interests and also to Russia. There are all types of issues surrounding this election, which would make us, I don't think sore losers, but calling this into reasonable doubt.
You get the last word because we're out of time. I'm sorry. You'll all be back. Doug Heye, Patricia Murphy, Angela Rye. Thank you all. Still to come for us, a lot ahead this hour. Border bound. House Speaker Paul Ryan heading south to the Texas-Mexico border. What are they going to talk about? Not many details have been released yet. We're going to get an update on that. Also, voters are mad. So how do you channel this anger into action? What are you going to do about it? We're going to ask Democratic lawmaker Adam Schiff. He'll join us later this hour. Also, the president's economic outlook, the numbers that his White House wants to see. Are they using fuzzy math? We're going to dig into all of that straight ahead.
We asked people to write down the things they love to do most on these balloons.
Travel with my daughter.
Roller derby?